together, me and Stefania. So I think this is the first time we're doing it without the rest of the crew. So, wish us luck. Jamie, Ms. Cowen, tell me about yourself.
Good morning. I'm Jamie Cowen, as Michael said, former Deputy District Attorney in Adams County, and now in private practice as a criminal defense attorney at my own law office. So.
Well, there's a little bit more we want to know, and I think you know why we brought you.
I know why you brought me.
First of all, a couple of things. We were talking about this off air. When you were actually in the district attorney's office. Who was the DA at the time?
Don Quick.
Don Quick, that's who it was. And he's currently a district court judge.
Correct.
Okay. You weren't the only
judge in which county? Were you in Adams?
Yes, is in Adams and Broomfield.
Right.
I want everybody to know.
And just to be clear, District 17 is Adams and Broomfield, where Jamie was the actual district attorney. But there was you weren't the only female district attorney or black district attorney in Adams County at the time.
No. Linda Lee was also a deputy district attorney there.
Is there any, to your knowledge, are there any people of color in that district attorney's office now?
One, if she's still there, but due to COVID, I'm not sure, but I believe she is Kimberly Palmer.
Oh, okay.
In the county court.
And so last night, we had Mr. Mason on, who is running for District 17 district attorney. One of the things he talked about was his opponent. What can you tell me, and what can you tell our audience about Mr. McCormick?
So in full disclosure, because as you know, Michael, I'm very upfront and honest, Mac was my chief in the county court when I was a young deputy DA in the county court for quite some time. And I would also consider him a very personal friend. What I learned from Mac, and anybody that knows me as a practitioner knows how I practice, and this is what he taught us there. You be open, you listen, and you be reasonable. I came from a very different background than a lot of my counterparts. So for me, I identified more with the people sitting across the table from me than I did with the people I was colleagues with. And what I appreciated with having Mac as my chief was he understood that. So I was able to balance being who I am with being a district attorney because of his tutelage in always be reasonable, always listen. Does that make sense? Use your power wisely. Don't just swing it brashly around.
He is a Republican.
He is a Republican.
Okay. And the question is, you're supporting him.
Yes.
What about all of the extra baggage that comes with him being a Republican? And you being a black woman, straight up.
Straight up. That's an honest question. And I have gotten this question since I have been, and from the beginning, for at least a year, I have openly had conversations about Mac, supporting Mac. I knew his party affiliation back when I was at the district attorney's office. What I don't want first of all, has anyone on this call had a conversation with Mac?
No.
So outside of just knowing his party affiliation, no one's had a conversation with him.
Right.
So, and I will tell you, I said the same thing to him. I'm me, so I said the same thing. I will be also very candid. There are things that I am very conservative in. So we had a long conversation about this. What we are not going to do is get caught up in the BS of the politics of the Democrats versus the Republicans, when what we want is a person who is the best person for the job, regardless of the letter behind their name. You want somebody who is transparent. You want somebody who listens. Michael, you tell me, well, who are your favorite district attorneys? They're not always the ones that give you what you want, right? But they're the ones that can give you a thought process of where they're going.
All you ask is that they listen.
Record stands on its own. So has anyone asked, because I know I've heard his opponents bashing of him, and what he leaves out is the reason why Timothy McCormick is no longer at the DA's office, because he stood in doing the right thing when asked not to. So regardless of party affiliation, also, because I know he has been endorsed by the FOP. That's a big deal with what we hear with Trump's law and order. I get it. I was a baby DA, and a case came in of child abuse because a grandmother was late picking up her grandchildren, who she now had custody of, twice. And they called the police on this woman. And I marched into Mac's office and I said, I'm not prosecuting this. And he said, are you kidding me? You walk over there, dismiss this case, and he called that officer sergeant and said, this is not what we are going to do. First of all, she raised her children, and now she's raising her grandchildren, and she's working when she should be retired, and she's late, and you call that child abuse? Oh, he went in. So don't get lost in the letter. Look at the totality of the person. I asked Mac, because I am unaffiliated, can you do unaffiliated? And he said, that would not be true to who I am, and anyone that knows me. He can disagree. He can tell you. If you have a conversation with him, and Michael, you know me.
Which is why you're here.
And I appreciate that. And remember when we talked on the phone a couple days ago, I said, oh, I welcome this opportunity. Let me bend your ear.
Well,
First
tell
of all,
us this then.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm curious if I understand, you know, the beauty about the United States of America is we are allowed to have these conversations. We can pick and choose which party we are affiliated with, whether we choose to be affiliated with one. The bad thing right now in this divided nation is that a lot of African Americans associate Republican with racist, and it's just the way that a lot of Republicans have set themselves up, especially under the leadership of Trump. Do you align yourself with the values and the how Trump puts his policies out there?
Oh no.
And do you feel like, I know you can't really speak for Tim, or Mr. McCormick, but do you feel like he does the same?
Oh no. I'll be very open and upfront with you.
Okay.
I can have a whole value system, but if what I started with is where I'm going to bring us back to, best person for the job.
I agree.
I don't care who Donald Trump runs as. That is not the best person for the job. He wasn't 4 years ago. I may have certain values and things like that. Also, let's make no mistake. I am a Black woman and a card-carrying Black woman. That man is a racist, and I would not be supporting anyone who supports him, period. And that conversation got had.
But
and I'm sorry, we're getting real close, and I'm real tight.
No, but here's the thing. You're not going to support anybody who supports him.
Mm-mm.
Mr. McCormick is a Republican, which by definition means he's going to support Trump. And if he's not, is that part of his platform? Has he come out and said, you know what, I'm the best man for the job. I'm not going to support Trump because he's obviously a buffoon. Like, has he come out and said that?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay.
See, this is, and I wouldn't even be here. I was prepared for this.
Well, the
there.
question,
But for me personally, outside of all of this, I have to deal with me, right? So, and I know we live in a world of, right, particularly right now on either side, all this pandering that goes on and whatnot. Outside of the election, I had this same issue 4 years ago with people. I stopped talking to people 4 years ago. How do you, first of all, Donald Trump, something's wrong with him. And I don't understand that. I do not, there are a number of Republicans who have come out and said, I am not voting for Donald Trump. I do not endorse Donald Trump. I don't think being a Republican is as synonymous with Donald Trump as this is trying to make it sound.
Really?
I don't.
Elaborate.
Well, as you know, as I said, a number of Republicans come out categorically. I am not supporting Donald Trump.
So what you're saying is the ones that do support Donald Trump, or at least don't stop him in his foolery, are louder than the ones that don't support him, because that could be the case. The ones, it seems like the ones that support him are very loud and very boisterous, which makes it seem like they are a big group.
And I can't disagree with that. Maybe the ones, but there are notable ones not supporting him, actively not supporting him. And then to bring the question back, Mac is actively not supporting him and has said that.
So then talk to me more about Mr. McCormick's views on how he's dealing with policing in Adams County, how he's dealing with reform in Adams County, and how he's going to, one of the big things for me is, you just talked about it a minute ago with the person who called the police on the grandmother too, because she showed up late, which is weaponizing the police. There was nothing that the person who called the police hoped to get out of that other than to demean and incarcerate this woman. So what do you say to people? How do you think he's handling this?
So he knows that he has a big load to tow, right? Because there used to be a time that there was a lot of training between the district attorney's office and the police departments. There was not a lot of rubber stamping going on. Oh, you brought it, we're going to go ahead and prosecute it. There was a lot more questioning going on of the process prior to charges, if it was a felony or whatnot. So his big deal is, we got to get in there and train. We've got to get rid of this record of bad cops and just saying, hey, you can stay here. Because that's what we see a lot of, right? Oh, we'll put you at a desk for a certain amount of time. And then all of a sudden they're back on the street. And the community doesn't know, right? We know, the practitioners know.
Right.
And so he is dedicated to that because he understands that. There's got to be, and he and I talk a lot about that role, because it's not as if the district attorney can go in and tell Aurora PD, who's always at the forefront of my mind, hey, you have to fire all of these people. But there is a way to train, and there is a way not to accept their things in court.
Go ahead, Carter.
Not going to
there is.
Accept those filings from your cops.
The district attorney cannot tell Aurora PD to fire someone, but they can, just like you said, okay, if this man brings me a case, I can't take it to court because we don't believe him. We don't trust him, and I'm not putting him on the stand. Mm-hmm. 2, when we see obvious, officers breaking the law, we can prosecute them instead of we're doing it. And this is why DA is so important. It's so important for a civilian, and especially for people of color. It seems like the district attorney's office takes the criminal code and looks for as many ways possible to charge a person of color or a civilian. And it seems on the other side, they take that exact same book and they look for as many ways not to charge police officers. And I had this conversation yesterday. It's not nepotism, but that synergy between the DA's office and the police department, where they're watching one person's back, the DA's is watching the police's back, and the police are watching the DA's back. The people who get hurt are the civilians.
Yeah,
right.
But that's why the district attorney's office is so important. Literally, we just had Elijah McClain, sorry. Elijah McClain. We literally just had the protesters charged. The ones protesting his death were charged where the people who actually committed the act were not.
Right.
I mean, I understand you support this man specifically, but the people who support him because of that are behind his name give me pause. And that's just the truth.
And I honestly think that that's fair. But you're acting as if those people are the puppets to how his office would run.
They are the people that are going to be making.
They're not.
But they are the people.
Puppets. He has been working with the reform community. He is as outraged. I don't know if you all had a chance to go to his website and review his letter with regard to the Elijah McClain decision, the ways that he would handle it differently. Let me tell you, any person that is a part of what went on over a year ago, and that's any person that is in a chief role position at the DA's office, is part of that decision that happens. There has been a rubber stamping of police conduct going on there currently. That's the issue.
Now, was he in the office with the current district attorney?
Yes.
Okay.
He was there under Bob Grant.
Okay.
Through Dave Young.
All right.
And then left the office and is now in Jefferson County.
How long ago did he leave the office? I apologize.
It's been 2 or 3 years ago. It may have been longer than that. When juvenile LWOP came back. Because that was the issue.
And if you can explain to people what
juvenile life without parole got overturned.
Okay.
And so a bunch of cases came back for resentencing. So it was around that time.
No. Is he currently a chief in Jefferson County at this time?
He acts as one, but I don't think that's his title.
Okay.
Let me tell you this, outside of the politics of this race and DA's races, and I have my own thoughts about that. The other role of the district attorney, right, is this pursuit of justice, because I think we can all agree we don't like how the justice is applied, right? However, anyone wants to make sure that people who do horrible things are held accountable. That man goes to trial on things that should go to trial. And he is one of the most amazing trial lawyers to watch. So when I say acting as chief, like that's what they get with Mac. And so carrying that full load, there's been some big things going on in Jefferson County trial-wise, as well as pursuing this. And anybody better, you can ask people that have gone to trial with Mac, have worked cases with Mac, and the refrain will always be the same. The things that should have gone went. There were reasonable discussions. He always listens. And nothing was arbitrary. Just because he could, as we know in certain counties, right? Well, I'm gonna file these bitch criminal counts on you.
That's a whole nother show. we didn't have that one we didn't have that one. Woo, that's a whole nother show.
Whole nother.
Oh no.
Talk to me. Jamie, I think we kind of glossed over it. Your background, like we just kind of started at you being a DA, which is when I found you. I found you. I brought you to the dark side.
Oh, please.
I found you, little pup, brought you to the dark side. But talk to us about like how did Jamie end up in the 17th?
Oh, man, look. So a good friend of mine, her godmother is an assistant AG. So I interned at the AG's office.
That's a good godmother right there.
Yeah. So I got this internship at the AG's office under Ken Salazar, and Don Quick was a chief AG.
Right.
I happened to meet him on my last day. And he said, hey, let me come to Adams County. Do you want to be a DA? And I said, no. I was like, the criminal justice system is racially biased. And he said, you come give me 6 months in Adams County, and if I don't change your mind, you can leave with a good recommendation.
Did he change your mind?
I gave them 5.5 years.
You didn't find a whole lot of racial bias, or did you find yourself being a white hatter in that arena, that you felt like you could do more better than you could make them be like you instead of you being like them?
There is no one that has more power in the courtroom than the district attorney, right?
True.
We're the gap. So I made them like me. This is what we're going to do. Yes, I can beat heads from the outside, and I have enjoyed beating heads from the outside for the last 10 years. But to be able to even stop it prior to it having to go to a trial, standing in this. Now, are there things that I dealt with? Of course. Are there cases that came in where I was like, what are you doing? But then I was the voice. Now you got to look somebody, you got to look your friend, your colleague, a fellow district attorney in her face and explain it to her. Tell me. I want to know.
And were you able to get them to see that they were acting out of their mental map of racism when they are applying these charges to these and heavier charges to African Americans where they don't to the white counterparts?
The good thing I could say about being in Adams County as opposed to anywhere else, I don't think I would have been a district attorney anywhere else at the time that I was. There was less of that than I found when I came out of the DA's office. And I was so glossed over thinking everywhere was like Adams. Now, I can't speak to what is going on now in terms of, because if I would be remiss if I were to say that is not actively happening today and hasn't been happening for some time. I have also been away for 10 years. So I can only speak to in my time there. I'm not saying it never happened. I can only tell you, I hope that my loud voice. I was about to
You know what you want to say. Hey, you know what you want to say. We all family. You know what you want to say.
Changed somebody, made them think twice.
When we sit next to DAs as a criminal defense attorney, the biggest issue that we have, I have, speak for me, their lack of perspective.
Ugh.
How, when you, even now, the communication with somebody about your lack of perspective, I can't give it to you. You know, I can't give you perspective. I can tell you, look, this is how this, but until they actually experience it, you're still dealing with DAs. You're a criminal defense attorney now, talked about how when you were a DA communicating to your fellow DAs their lack of perspective, and how now as a criminal defense attorney communicating with your opponents / DAs about their lack of perspective.
I think that goes into hiring, right? So at the end of the day, when I came into the DA's office, not was I probably the only green person, I was the only new person. Most had been DAs or city attorneys for years somewhere else. I luckily came in with a life story that prepared me for that. And those are things that I have discussed with people. You have to get people with life stories to do this job, because this whole what you wouldn't do, you know, Michael, you know, I've talked about that because I've had to tell that to a bunch of different district attorneys. You wouldn't have to. So you don't know what it is. But
it's almost like they can't put themselves in the other person's shoes at all. They don't have, you can't have empathy and be a district attorney.
Right. But you have to.
But you have to. And the whole conversation that we're having with them is trying to get the district attorney to stop dehumanizing my client and treating them like humans. And there's got to be a bridge. Which is a broken record that I'm sure you have over and you are a broken record when you say that. Stop dehumanizing my client.
Yes.
And they never get it.
Some do. Some don't.
Do you think that's along a racial line, that they get it when they're seated in front of a white defendant, but they don't get it when they're seated in front of a Black defendant? They're harder and they're more rigid when they're sitting opposite a Black defendant.
Well, I'll let Jamie speak to that, but I can tell straight up, standing next to, there is a certain type of client that you know standing at a sentencing in front of a judge is going to get treated completely different than another type of client. They're going to get a better disposition. They are going to get a more favorable, from the judge, it's going to be a more favorable disposition. Whereas when I'm sitting next to another client who already they're trying to throw the book at, and, you know, it does matter. It completely matters. The judges will say it doesn't matter. The DAs will say it doesn't matter. But the client that you're standing next to absolutely has a bearing. Same race. Go ahead.
Tell me this. Okay, so we know that it's deep from the judges on down. How do you as a district attorney take the power back from the judges who do that? And how do you feel that you can? Can you take the power back from the judges in their practices and sentencings, and you know how harsh they are, you know their mental map, and that it always goes to a racial bias when they see two people of two different colors, same cases, and they treat them so differently? How can you as a district attorney take that power back?
Well, you have to just call it out. And
are you willing to do that with the judge?
I think sometimes I have. I have, because who else is going to speak up? And I think if there was more of that on both sides of the table, but particularly from their side of the table.
They like we're right. You say you're the most power. You're standing in front of a judge and you're like, Your Honor, I don't think you can do that because that's wrong. And they look at you like, it's not wrong because I did it. So obviously it must be right.
Right. So how do you stop? I mean, is there any way, do you feel like a district attorney have the power to stop that?
I think it's a balancing act. I don't think, this is why I'm such an avid person. I had so many people call me during this election to ask me about the judges on their ballot. Because I have been preaching to friends for years. Anybody I know, do not ignore that. Don't ignore the judges on the ballot, and call me. I will tell you, go sit in a courtroom and watch.
We can't now for this ballot.
Well, everything's online now.
Everything's online. They have a public online where you can log in and
watch the proceedings
and be in court. You know, and I try to tell people that because, as you know, once things are, the system it's a funny animal. This is why they say we're all crazy for being engaged in it, because it's a funny animal with how much power it has and the limited power all the players have.
Right.
Well, and one of the things,
conjunct is where we're at all the time.
And you also got to remember, when we as the criminal defense attorney are going at it with the judge. It ain't like the DA is going to be like, you know what? I think Mr. Carter has a point. like the more pressure exerted on us, the less the DA has to do their job.
Right.
Right.
Which is what they want.
Unless you're in certain front of certain judges that I can appreciate.
But they're all having
to the fire.
I love that word, appreciate.
They are few and far between compared to the ones that, won't. But there has to be, the problem is nobody understands that if we are truly a system of checks and balances, then that's everybody's job. But nobody's doing their job. It's not. I had a case recently where I had to do everybody's job in that case.
Yeah.
And I would come home and tell my niece, like, man, I needed like 5 paychecks today.
Wow.
Because I did everybody's job.
You did the investigator's job and the district attorney's job.
The judge's job, the DA's job, the detective's job.
Were they appreciative? Oh, thank you, Ms. Cowen. Thank you.
Do you feel like you're outside of the conversation then as a defense attorney? Now that you're a defense attorney, do you feel like you're outside of the conversation that's being had because the district attorney, the judges, the investigators are all in the room having the conversation about your client and you're not part of that conversation anymore?
That's a good question.
Yes.
Which is harder to overcome when you're trying to win the case for your client.
Well,
go ahead.
That is the battle.
As a criminal defense attorney, you start to lead that solitary. You went from having people around, even people you didn't like, on a regular basis. But as a criminal defense attorney, you're a solitary animal, right? So how do you cope with that, from going from, being that DA, having people around all the time, to being criminal defense attorney, in and out?
You're not in the room where the conversation is, as Hamilton would say. You just want to be
in the room where it happens. You're no longer in the room where it happens.
No longer in the room where it happens, right? But establishing the record I had, being a former prosecutor, and taking that with me, then I'm controlling the conversation, right? Okay. So the benefits to being a DA was getting to watch defense attorneys and getting to see what to do, what not to do, right? And I was like, this is going to be your style. You're going to be the one that if they see Jamie Cowen's name on an entry of appearance, it's going to be like, oh, she's going to either go to trial or we're going to be able to work this out. One of the two. But it's about laying that framework. I was a very good district attorney. And at the same time, I was tough, but I was always fair. So I was able to nurture relationships prior to leaving the DA's office that also helped me immensely as a defense attorney. Now they will tell you they called me the resident public defender at the DA's office.
Yeah,
I just don't see that.
But
that's a head game. That's a head game.
I wouldn't see that either. But I was like, hey, I'm going to do what's right all the time. I'm not going to do what's popular. That's not my job.
Exactly.
Because
justice is your job.
Right, and these are people's lives.
I got a question. You and I both, you practice primarily the little corridor, 17th to 2nd, Denver Metro, but you also go to the hinterlands.
I go everywhere.
Talk to, I also go to the hinterlands. Talk to, being the only person of color, not in the courtroom, but in the county, and trying a case.
And tell everybody, because this is not just a conversation with us, tell everybody what you're referring to when you refer to hinterland.
I'll let you use it.
I know the direction are we going, right? I mean, it's always an interesting thing. Having grown up here, gone to Cherry Creek schools, CSU, and then DU, that being in places, and I debated in high school, so being in places where I was the only Black person they seen, you kind of get used to, right? Going into these different courthouses, though, was like, oh man. But also remember, I had to start trying cases in Brighton, Colorado.
It's literally called
Brighton. And so when I was in baby DA school, Mike Pello was teaching whatever. And I asked, voir dire. And I said, hey, look, I'm in Brighton. That's all I said. And he said that you need to just call it out. Does anyone have a problem with the fact that I'm Black? And having grown in that there at the DA's office then enables me to go to court in Gilpin, Gunnison, whatnot, and face these issues because I can confront it flat out. Do I think about it all the time? Of course. I had a case in Gunnison, and they have a two-way mirror for victims to sit in a room and watch court where they can see court, but you don't see them. So I was coming out of the courtroom, and a sheriff's deputy stepped out. Oh, we just wanted to know who the pretty Black woman was in the courtroom. And I was like, oh, really? Is that my name?
They have gone on the radio. They have radioed to each other. Yeah, she's walking out. Well, quick story. I had a case out west in a town, and my sister-in-law was part of the community, but my sister-in-law looks like my wife. All right. So they didn't realize they were talking about me to my sister-in-law.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Oh, it was funny. And she come like, well, they think you're kind of a bleep. I was like, yeah. They're right. They wouldn't say it to me. That passiveness, that passive aggressive interaction is
Colorado
is funny, because if you get it right, you can play it against them. That pass. And then my challenge, you talk to this, not even just the juries, which juries are juries, right? Juries are juries. Talking to DAs who live in a community that you've come to try a case in. And, we're talking about, say you're out in Gunnison again, or you're out in Sterling, where in which you are not only an outsider, but your opponent, if you will, lives and works in the community, and be like, oh, well, we can't have him because it's calving season, and we can't have her because she knows him. And that's talk to the audience about that.
It's crazy. And it's not like you pack up your briefcase and go home.
You just look at it. What's so funny? So-and-so, we'll be the cafeteria. There's only one stop. Go over to mom's, tell her I sent you, get the number 2.
It's crazy. I don't even know how. See, those are the times that you just got to go in and suck some stuff up and hope for the best. Because what do you do? No. Hey, can you recuse, and what? I'll have somebody else that you also live next door to, and your kids play together on Sunday. Like, what are we gonna do with that?
I've had jurors show up with their DOC uniforms on, saying, "Can we just hurry up?" I had a man turn to the jury because we kept kicking him because they were all. He gets up, stares at the jury. Older man, you got obviously respected in the community. And say, look, we got to pick a jury. Like, y'all need to cut this out. And you're just like, Your Honor. Well, we do have to pick a jury. Oh.
or
Let me
place.
ask you this, and let's go to a bigger topic, because this whole criminal justice system needs reform, and it needs reform badly. It's the whole system from the top to the bottom, which is why on my ballot, I voted to replace every single one of the judges because they're part of the system that is already in place that has done no good. And I really feel that we need to have reform as far as people in the way they think when they see somebody of color come approach in their courtroom. We need to have reform in the policing part of it, the investigation part of it, where they will manufacture evidence and work with the DAs to create criminals instead of prosecuting the ones that really truly are criminals. Do you have any desire, or do you think, more importantly, this is an election season, so we're talking about McCormick, do you think he has any desire to bring about true change and reform in this huge system that seems to snack on and eat up African American men and women and spit them out, or not ever spit them out? Wait until these life sentences for petty offenses that they would not normally give to a white person. Do you think that do you see reform happening, and do you think McCormick is going to be part of that?
Yes. And I know that he's going to be a part of that because that is part of his platform. Not only treatment courts, but what are you writing these tickets for? Other than to start this trail. He has been actively working with the Colorado Criminal Justice Reform Coalition, and they have all agreed that should things go very well on Tuesday for him, those conversations will continue because there is a problem everywhere. Numbers are up everywhere. And for what? And Carter, you're ADC, I'm ADC in Adams County, in the county court. And I'm looking at these cases going, what, do y'all have nothing to do? Because what are we doing here? One of the good things about Mac is he's a listener. So he has the benefit of me, a couple other people that were DAs in his office and now on the defense end that he speaks to and takes in what we have to say about, hey, we can be your voices. You need to have relationships with people that are not in your office, that are not part of that system, right? Because if he's talking to defenders and people that defend, I tell people all the time, you don't know what it is to have a client. You don't need to be a DA or a judge because you need to know that these are people who have families and thoughts. And if I had to go to court and atone for every mistake I had made in a room full of strangers, I would hope that somebody were giving me the benefit of the doubt at that time, or maybe I did just mess up, but I'm not a throwaway.
Right,
and
exactly.
Mac is committed to balancing that not all people are throwaways. We had a philosophy. 95% of the people you deal with made a bad decision. 5% of the people you deal with are really criminals. Always err on the 95%, period. And then
That's a good philosophy. I dig it.
So, and I'm sorry, I'm just passionate about that because the same things that we are talking about here. This is why this is so important. You don't know, Carter, how much when you text me, I was like, I don't know what he's going to do, but I need to go and talk about this. And not just for him, for all of us who engage in this crazy system that people's lives are ruined. Because either politics, my ego, right? These are the issues that we see. I kind of wish the DA's race wasn't even a political kind of race, if there were another way to do it, right? Because we get into this framework of, oh, look where you lean. All right, I lean with that, but you can't do the job. These sound bites, right? Oh, I'm tough on crime. Oh, I'm this. Oh, I'm that. That leaves out the one thing that this race is really about, which is people. These are people. So I think there is a way to do it, and I know he is committed to doing that.
Okay.
So if he wins, do you join back in the DA's office?
I knew you were going to ask me that. Strongly consider it.
Really?
Yes. To First of all, I have been asking Mac to run for DA for years because there is something about being a great leader that he has. And that's what you need. You need somebody who is a great leader, not dominant, not a pander, a great leader who can mold people. And that was what they were committed to, making us good lawyers. But we were people first. I could go in and say whatever. Hey, it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. So that's what this is about. That's it. Period. This is important. I don't care who y'all vote for. I mean, I do love everybody back. However, just go and vote. Whatever you do, who's ever listening, if you haven't already voted, please just go and vote.
Right. And as Ms. Cohen said earlier, you need to be aware that sometimes I'm not against voting party affiliation straight down the ticket. I'm not against that at all. However, sometimes the Democrat may not be the best person for you. You have to decide for yourself. You really have to look at not party affiliation, but what their policy what their policy is, what they're standing for, what they're saying that they can and want to do. Who is the best person for you in today's environment?
Yes. Best person for the job.
Yeah.
I just say this. I am so happy you came on.
Oh,
I'm also very happy I never had to take a case against you because I might have taken that L.
Thank you. You might have.
See? You can't even be humble. Like, nah. Come on.
We're trial lawyers. We're trial lawyers. Come on. Well, and if I was a DA, if we're talking about against me, then I should win. I'm the DA. I brought the case. They should always win, right? If they're doing the right thing. Think about it.
I have to disagree with that.
This is what
if they're doing the right thing.
If they're doing the right thing, they should
following the evidence.
And following the evidence. Everything, we're going in perfect Jamie world right now, not the world we currently live in.
Okay, in Jamie Utopia.
Yes. In Jamie Utopia. Is they're doing the right thing, right? They got the evidence, the person did it.
They got a head start. They got a head start.
You're right. I should win.
I tell them all the time, it's why you're losing, because you're not doing the right thing. Period.
They do lose, don't they?
There wouldn't be a defense for us to use, Michael. I'm not talking about the affirmative defenses. I'm talking about we just flat out play the facts. Their facts are wrong. The only reason my client is here is because of this, and they lose. Come on. Then you shouldn't have been filing that case. We should not even be here. There is Rule 42. We shouldn't be here.
What district do you live in?
I live in Adams County.
All right. This don't work out. You might want to run for that one.
Oh, you're hilarious right now.
You are, man. I was going to say, when you were back in, we're going to cut it off. We've been going for about an hour. Just want to say, shout out one of my favorite people.
You are one of my favorite people.
One of my favorut people.
Forever.
I don't know how you guys were in the. I don't know how you and Linda Lee were in the same office together.
Uh-oh. Is that a conversation for another day?
Yeah.
No.
Not at all. We're not even gonna have it.
Okay. We're not even gonna have it.
We're gonna go.
No, Linda and I go way back though.
I know. That's what I'm saying. All right, Jamie. Stefani, you got anything for us?
It was so nice to meet you.
It was very nice to meet you too, Ms. Cohen.
Bringing people together.
I know. It's so nice to see you, Carter. Goodbye, Ivy. Thank you.
He's out there listening in the.
See you later.
Thank you.
All right, hey, that's been another episode of Dope Black Thoughts Live, guys. Woo! Ms. Cowen brought the fire. Stefani, you got anything?
No, it's always nice to see people of color, to see us doing what we do. You know what I mean? And doing it the right way. I keep telling my children growing up, I remember, this is how old I am, I'm gonna date myself, but I remember back in the day when we didn't have these opportunities to become lawyers. The mountain that we had to climb to do that was really steep. And I remember when they made it a little bit easier by making sure that we had scholarships that were available only specifically to us, so that we could become judges and CEOs and members of these the upper echelon. However, the problem that I've had here lately is that when we see judges who are of color do to us what they do to us, I have a big problem. And it's nice to see that Ms. Cowen is not part of that.
We're gonna get out of here. That was awesome. I will say shout out to Mr. Ivy, who's out there in the cloud somewhere. I believe he had an interview on Friday. Knock on wood.
Good luck to that.
What's that?
I said good luck to him on that.
Yes, and like I said, I'm glad I brought you two together. Two beautiful Black women having a great conversation.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And
thank you.
And I want to shout out to Jamie and her being so humble.
The most important thing though is get out there and vote, people. We are November 1st. Election day is Tuesday. If you haven't cast your ballot, it's too late. Please go stand in a line. If you need a ride, if you need help, please contact somebody.
And remember yesterday, we will probably try to get one more show in, Dope Black Livestock show in. You can do same day registration. So if you still have not registered, you can still do same day registration. You can contact Ms. Patton, you can contact Mr. Mason, you can contact the Secretary of State, you can contact your county clerk to find out where you need to go. There should not be a reason in Colorado that you have not voted.
That's right. Colorado has made it very easy.
We are bucking the trend. Colorado makes it easy for you to vote. So there's no reason why you shouldn't vote. Awesome show. Once again, thanks, Stefania. That's we're out.
All right. All right, Mr. Ivy. All right. Be good, everybody.
See y'all later.
Vote.